It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. Ha! What is going on? The people new to this channel are saying, this is Feedback Friday. I do this every Friday. Feedback Friday is exactly what it sounds like. I take your feedback every Friday and respond to it. So the first thing I want to do is welcome the almost 1,000 new subscribers to this channel that have showed up in the last week who are going, why is this chick singing? Where's Last of Us content? Hello. I want to, because there have been a new influx, basically go over the few simple rules of this channel. There are very, very, very few things that will get you banned. Hate speech is one of them, but you will likely get a warning. If it's been tons and tons and tons and tons, no. But if you slip and make a bad comment and someone points it out to me or I see it, I will go, no more, give you the opportunity to listen, and good. But the number one thing that will get you banned from this channel is attacking, like personal attacking another commenter. Say what you want about me, comes with the territory, but other people should be able to come here. They're private people. They're just here to watch my silly videos. I don't allow that in my comment section. So if you start roasting someone and it's personal and you go after somebody for like immutable characteristics especially, I'll give you one, maybe two chances to knock it off. And if you don't, real simple. There are a few other things, obviously, like something like defending CP. I'm not even going to say the words because YouTube doesn't like it. Little things like that, not good. But that's pretty much it. We are pretty welcoming here. Fairly simple rules. The only other thing I do crack down on pretty hard is people posting spoilers without the tag and the drop down on it. So if somebody can scroll by some sort of gameplay footage or some commentary and see spoilers, that makes me angry. Red Lantern angry. So don't do that, please. Those are the rules. So I'm going over that again so everybody knows. Nobody can claim they didn't know. I believe some of these are on my About page, but I should check and make sure they're there. Just cross every T, dot every I. Because it has been a week. There's so many places to go with The Last of Us 2 comments that the one thing I want to touch on before I get into the other major news item for the week is somebody asked me, basically, a few people asked, if there is mansplaining, is there womansplaining? And in my opinion, yes. Yes, there is. And it works a similar way. I have seen it happen. I have seen women talk down to men who are stay-at-home dads or primary caregivers of children in a condescending way and speak to them as if they know nothing about things that they very clearly do know quite a bit about, like changing diapers and how to feed a baby and how to put a baby down for a nap and how to cook and how to properly clean things and things like that. I've seen it happen and it's real. Don't do it. You know, it's the same underlying bad assumptions about, well, men are just not naturally interested or competent at certain things the same way it happens in the other way. So to me, that's how that works. It is a real thing. I've seen it. It's not good when that happens either. And people should essentially not assume that people don't have an ability or interest in things like that just because of their gender. Good? Good. All right. So I'm going to spend the rest of the time talking about, oh Lord, the kind of MeToo thing that's been going on in gaming. And it took me a long time to even figure out what was going on. The Chris Avalone, or Avalon, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but the accusations against him, the numerous accusations against him, that hurt. There are so many of them, though, that it's kind of hard to deny it. Others, guys flat out admitting to being a dirtbag. Kind of cut and dried there. Others, guys like Angry Joe, threatened legal action. I'm going to give Angry Joe benefit of the doubt on that one. See how it shakes out. Then there are others that get into more, instead of it being a power dynamic or some sort of your job is contingent on performing some sort of, favor for me. I'm trying to watch what I say because it's YouTube. Basically, some of these other allegations were that a guy was lying about his marital status and cheating on his wife. Anyone who knows me knows I find this absolutely disgusting behavior. I will have been married 20 years as of this July. Never cheated. It's possible. It's gross. The reality is, though, that guy who cheated on his wife, who was not good to a woman he claims to love, still likely has kids, still needs to make a living. The problem is, can they make a living as the face of a brand? Well, kind of difficult to say no when there's a guy in the White House who very clearly cheated on his wife multiple times, multiple wives. And on one hand, I'm glad that gaming is better than that. I'm glad we've set a higher standard. On the other, if it is a standard that people don't lose their jobs for adultery, that should be the standard across the board. It should be the same for everyone. Now, in some cases, like the creative director of Assassin's Creed Valhalla willingly stepped aside because it is a distraction. And I don't know how you work through something like that, but that family is going to try. I feel terrible for that family. And the thing about these sorts of things becoming public is it's not just embarrassing for the guy who did it or the girl who did it. It's embarrassing for their spouse or their partner. And out of respect for that, I think we should leave that there. Now, there have been much more serious accusations made against talent management companies. And that's where I start going, whoa, hold up, that's serious. Because that actually is someone who controls someone's professional destiny. And that is something that the industry can have zero tolerance for. I said this on a radio interview yesterday, that as bad as it is, I'm really glad that this came to light relatively quickly. And this is not a guy who, like Harvey Weinstein, was able to prey on women, I believe it's all women, for decades before finally getting caught, outed, and shut down. And now he's in jail. I'm glad again that gaming was better than that. It's sickening to even think that someone would abuse their power that badly. I am glad that even though it affected a great number of people, it did not drag on for decades. I am glad. That makes me happy. As happy as you can be under the circumstances. I feel awful for the people who were taken advantage of and abused that way. The problem with a community where people tend to be very shy and introverted and socially awkward in a lot of ways is that a few a few sociopaths, like a few malignant narcissists, can really wreak a lot of havoc because there's no checks and balances in place to stop them. And that becomes extra complicated with a service like Twitch or Mixer that's apparently shutting down. That was a shock to me. It's apparently shutting down in a month. Interesting. Wow. Like I said, it's been a week. Let's go with Twitch and YouTube. Stick to those two because of the big two. This is where we get into, is it a service? Is it a platform? How much responsibility does a platform have for the personal behavior of the people who use the tool to broadcast their content? It's a very gray area right now, and I think that's going to be an ongoing community conversation regarding how much responsibility we are going to collectively put on a platform to, police the behavior or punish the behavior of individual users. On the one hand, it's like, yeah, they are making money off these users. On the other, there's no direct supervision of content. Now, I do see the point that when there are pending investigations, when accusations have been made, it's one thing to not shut down their channel. It's another thing to continue to invite people who have been accused of bad stuff that could possibly endanger other people to in-person events like parties and things like that. That's not cool. You gotta err on the side of caution in that case, because if they were falsely accused, they missed a party. If they weren't falsely accused, somebody else might get hurt. Now, there's in-between things. Staff could chaperone, make sure they're not left alone with people, but then you get into the sense of injustice of why is someone allowed to be popular when they're a horrible piece of crap? The sad reality of that is a lot of people are very popular who are horrible pieces of crap, and it offends everyone's sensibilities. We have to be very, very careful about being authoritarian about what we do about that. I mean, in an ideal world, these things would come to light. We'd judge how the person who has been accused handles the accusation. And the individual viewers, the individual Twitch members who are the ones that pay for the content decide whether this is something that they want to continue, supporting or not. And trust me, I know personally what it's like for a dirtbag to get away with stuff and then go on to make a whole bunch of money. And eventually, sometimes they get outed, but they've already made enough money to be set for life by that point. It feels horrendously unfair. But then I think of the other side of, say somebody does get falsely accused and we don't have appropriate investigation. We don't have an appropriate burden of proof. And it's hard in these things, right? In terms of what constitutes proof. Obviously, if someone can physically prove they were not in the place someone claimed they were, well, that's one thing, right? It's another thing of, was it consensual? Was it not? Like, these are difficult things. And this is just personally how I cope with it, how I handle it. If you can effectively and sufficiently determine either credibility beyond reasonable doubt or there's some sort of corroboration that makes you feel comfortable deciding, yes, I believe this person did what they did. That's an ideal situation when you have a reasonable degree of certainty. When you don't, it is still incredibly irresponsible to continue to make those people cross paths. Somebody should be able to, on the one hand, go to work and not have to constantly see somebody who they believe did something horrible to them. On the other hand, the other person also has a right to go to work and not have to constantly see somebody who may or may not have falsely accused them. Like, it's a win-win for both sides on this. It can't be just work it out. I don't want to hear it. And this is the problem with the way a lot of not just game studios, but tech companies overall are run. Everything is so breakneck pace. Everything is crunch-ish at the best of times that there is no ability for HR, if they even have an HR department, to be able to hit pause, investigate these things, work it out, and move forward without destroying company morale. Now, even though guys who admitted to, doing bad stuff have done bad stuff, I do think it shows leadership to step down so they are not a distraction for their team, so their product isn't affected any more than it has to be by their scandal. That says something. That tells me that while one person can be a terrible human being in one way, they're not a completely terrible human being, if that makes any sense. And that doesn't excuse what they did. What it determines is, does this person deserve another chance after an appropriate amount of time? And, that's a complicated thing. The problem with this stuff is there is no agreed upon belief of what constitutes not just appropriate punishment, but an appropriate restorative process for the victim. And by victim, I mean victim of bad acts. And I don't mean to use euphemisms, guys. It's just YouTube flags this stuff if you use certain words. So I'm trying to avoid certain words. There needs to be a restorative process for, let's just talk about the cases where the person is making a legitimate claim. They're not mistaken. It's not a case of mistaken identity. They're not flat out lying. It does happen in 2 to 8% of the time. But, for the victim there, it's not just about punishment. It's about healing. It's about being able to get past that horrible thing and trust other human beings again. That's the critical thing. That's the important thing here. All the punishment in the world doesn't do squat if that component is not there. On the other side, for the small minority, but real, instances where somebody is falsely accused, they need to be able to heal from that too. And there's also the thing we have to deal with in gaming is we now have a standard of, when a woman cheats, it's nobody's business. When a man cheats, it's everybody's business. I have a problem with that as a woman. We need a consistent standard for everyone, because if that inconsistent standard continues, then that's ultimately going to hurt women in the long run. Because let's face it, what man in a position of authority is going to really be able to trust the system if it's that kind of imbalance? And that means they're not going to hire women. And that means we aren't going to get hired, right? I have a vested interest in this not happening. So we do have to sort that out. If it's a private matter when a woman cheats on their spouse or their boyfriend or their girlfriend or their partner, their gender nonconforming partner, it's either a public matter or it's a private matter. It can't be a public matter for one person and a private matter for another person. Those cases, I am deeply uncomfortable with the condemnations, just because back in 2014 we were told it's nobody's business, it's a private matter. And now we have people having to step away from projects because of something that used to be a private matter. I have issues with that. Like I said, I don't like cheating. I have really personal history being cheated on, obviously back in the day. We're talking when I was still in school. I think it's disgusting and there's no excuse for it. And if you're unhappy, you leave a relationship first. I get things happen sometimes. I get that alcohol is often involved. I don't care. Personally, my knee-jerk reaction is, I don't care. You're a scumbag. You're a scumbag. Get out of my face. I am being completely honest about how I feel when I hear anyone has cheated. And I personally don't buy these, oh, we had an agreement, we had an open relationship, something like that. If the person you're with is upset with your behavior, obviously something went wrong. Shut up and listen to that person. Stop trying to justify your behavior. I don't care what gender you are. It's not okay. There's never any justification or excuse to lie to someone like that about big things or to betray trust that way. It's just not okay. Now, again, is it so not okay that people should lose their jobs for it? Different story. I think that when something breaks with this kind of timing, it is a distraction. And again, I do agree with the idea to step away so that it doesn't impact, the 50 other people who worked on the damn game. And that's before all the outsourcing, right? That's before all the marketing. Just the core people who worked on that game. They owe it to them to step aside so they're not a distraction. These other things, these accusations of outright cut and dried abuse. I have been speaking for about a decade now about how some of these in-person events, which we don't have to worry about for a while because of COVID, but some of these in-person events just give way too many opportunities for this stuff to happen. If you look at my record, I have been talking about this for about 7 or 8 years now because I've experienced situations where I realized at the time, this could go very poorly. And I talked on Twitter this week about how I have had conversations. One of the reasons I stopped trying to put myself out there from a freelance perspective is it just wasn't worth the constant cycle of feeling like a piece of meat. Because I either wasn't the right politics or I really got the sense that a guy was just sitting down to lunch with me, not for professional curiosity, but out of the idea, can I get with her? And when it became clear, no, it wasn't going to happen, you just saw the interest just draining away. And then it's, oh, we'll see what I can do. And, they might throw you a bone, one freelance piece or something like that, but it certainly is not the ongoing relationship that you promised to network for. And that's wrong. The problem is that is the responsibility of every single professional to not do that. And the thing is that guys who do that are friends with other guys who do that. That's the only way they can justify it to themselves that that is right and okay. And the only way you get enough guys in a place, I'm just using guys as a gender neutral term here, okay? I'm talking about my own personal experiences. I'm sure women have done it to men too. And I'm sure people who are non-binary have done it, okay? So let's not get stuck on pronouns here. Because I'm going somewhere with this. You only get a systemic problem is if you get a concentration of dirtbags that look the other way at each other's bad behavior, like a metastasized bro code. And I keep using the male pronoun here simply because gaming happens to be male dominated, so you only get those concentrations with men. Now, online, on other issues, no, you get these, forums of hundreds of women. All of a sudden, they have the same swarm power, right? They can form a wall. They can form like a personal online army. It works the same way. The only way we insulate against that is to make sure there's enough diverse representation and enough diverse hiring that the balance of power doesn't get completely out of whack. And that isn't just about gender. It's about hiring people from different backgrounds. And this is going to help everyone in the gaming industry, because I would love it if when certain games are working on projects that, take place in, say, the American Midwest, someone from the Midwest is actually there to sort of go, no, people would never do that there, or something like that. You can tell when that's not there. I also think that, unfortunately, we're getting sort of multi-generational, like you have an advantage if you grow up in a major gaming hub, and gaming has to do better looking for prospective employees from outside of those bubbles, not because it's a humanitarian thing, because it's good for business, because there's plenty of people who are qualified and competent and, hey, might even be better at certain things. But guess what that means? Your very fragile workplace culture where everyone talks the same way and in many ways thinks the same way, that's going to get disrupted. And that's going to be uncomfortable sometimes. But multiple studies have shown that the study consensus is it's good for business. You actually see an improvement on the balance sheet. You actually make more money because even though you're less sure you're making a good product, you have more doubt fused into the equation, the ultimate product actually is better because you've got more people who will catch red flags. Now, apparently, there's a whole other issue. And this one I can speak fairly certainly about because one of the people who got named in an article, I actually checked in with him to make sure he was okay. Long-time colleague of mine, dude did me a lot of favors when he was a publisher, a publicist at a major game studio. But he says that he tried to escalate certain complaints about certain people back in the day, and they went nowhere. I believe him, not out of principle. I believe him because I know his character. And he would not rock that boat unless he was damn sure. And so those are the sorts of things where someone's reputation does matter when it comes down to that. It's not, well, they had no reason to lie. It's, I know this guy. He wouldn't. So, I have the benefit in certain cases of going, all right, if he says it, you know what I mean? Like if he says it, we're good. I believe him. Now, any company of any size is going to have these problems. The bigger the company is, the more likely they're going to have these problems. The question is, does gaming have an abnormally large problem? And I still don't think so. The Twitch thing looks bad. A talent manager, that's disgusting. We should be past that. We're not. And again, he wasn't allowed to prey on people for 20 damn years the way Harvey Weinstein did. I'll remind you that Harvey Weinstein had accusations against him going back to the 1990s. That's more than 20 years. So we're better than that. Thank goodness. Can we do better? Absolutely. But we're not going to make the right steps if we think we're uniquely awful. I am not surprised that a lot of Twitch streamers have behaved horrendously and in some cases criminally. A lot of narcissists are attracted to these platforms. Not everybody is like me, who is actually profoundly introverted, but I care enough about this stuff to put myself out there every day. I still get nervous doing it. Some weeks are better than others. Some weeks are really bad. I don't enjoy the public element of this, but I do enjoy connecting with people. I do enjoy feeling like I'm making things a little bit better. If everybody devoted themselves to making the community just a little bit better every time they make a decision, if they were less selfish, well, we wouldn't have these problems. That's not the world. That's the problem. This isn't an issue of good people doing bad things. This is an issue of bad people doing bad things and knowing they're bad. The fact that, some of these guys were just, yes, I behaved terribly, I'm so sorry. Well, that happens so quickly. The guy knew he behaved badly. 1, why didn't he stop until he got caught? 2, why didn't he try to fix it with these people before they publicly shamed him? And they happen to be men in this case, all right? That tells me something. That makes it kind of hard to believe. Now, it's one of those things where if they Hugh Granted and they go on an apology tour and, 2 months from now they're still apologizing, all right, different story. I don't know what goes through the minds of people who know they're doing something wrong and do it anyway. I just know that it is so. I have seen people do it, and they're always profusely apologetic after the fact, and then they do it again. Something is profoundly wrong with these people. Something is missing within them. But these people exist. And any system is going to be somewhat vulnerable to people like that because they are highly manipulative. And this is why it's so important that we get standardized, consistent codes of conduct and this is bad but not a fireable offense. This is not. This is actually, no, you shouldn't be. You don't deserve to be in this industry anymore. And then there's, no, this is weird. This is embarrassing, but this is not a moral transgression, right? It's all over the place right now. And that allows predators free rein to hunt prey. Because the more openings they can have for making excuses, the more they're going to use them. That's what these people do. Okay, so someone's calling me. Oh, it's my husband. He's out shopping. Okay, so we'll wrap now. I don't think I've done the Patreon yet. Help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/AnnaK. That feels really crass after this topic, but thanks for watching. Have a great weekend.